Today we will be trying a new watercolor technique. We will be creating texture with salt. First, we will begin by drawing snowflakes. I recommend that you practice snowflake drawing on a separate piece of paper first to get the hang of it. Snowflakes are six-sided crystals. I always start with a tall X and add a line through the middle. This gives me 6 separate sticks to start building on. Since they are symmetrical, meaning the same on all sides, whatever you do to one of the segments, you will repeat that same design on all the rest. Once you feel comfortable drawing snowflakes, you can begin on your final paper. Using a white crayon, draw a few snowflakes. Since we are drawing on a white paper, it will be difficult to see what you have drawn. I suggest drawing this in sunlight because you will be able to see your marks better in the sun. You could also lightly sketch your snowflake in pencil first and then trace it in crayon if you think that would be helpful. Make sure you apply enough pressure to leave a good amount of wax on the paper so the crayon will resist the watercolors successfully. Now you are ready to paint. Decide what colors you will use and get your paints ready. We will use a wet-on-wet technique with our watercolor paints. Start by wetting sections of your paper with plain water and then adding the color while the paper is still wet. This allows the paint to spread and blend in a unique way. While the paint is wet, sprinkle a little bit of salt on the wet paint. It is very important to make sure that your paint is still wet when you add the salt. If you add salt once the paint is dry, the technique will not work. It helps if you work one small section at a time so you can be sure your paint stays wet. You will notice that the salt crystals soak up the liquid from the watercolor paint, leaving behind areas without as much color. Using different sizes of salt crystals will create different patterns and textures. Larger salt crystals will soak up more color and leave behind a bold design. Fine table salt crystals will leave behind a softer texture. Leave the salt on your artwork while your paint dries. And once you're finished and your artwork has dried completely, you can use a clean hand to rub the salt off of